Have you ever been afraid to learn something new? I want you to think back to that time when you were afraid to learn something and how you felt, where you were, what was going on. What would you say now to that little kid? What would you say now to your teachers? I want to start off by telling you a story. This story begins like any others. It has a hero, an evil dragon, a lovely town with a view, and of course, a lesson to be learned. Now, this story begins like most others. A young girl who's trying to be her very best. She's a hard worker, she's efficient, she's organized. She knows how to be a good student. Time passes and she continues to grow, and everything is going fine. Until one day that she learns a hard truth. She learns that there's a dragon that lurks around the town. She's terrified of coming face to face with this dragon. Every now and then she sees its shadow, and when she does, she goes the other way and tries to avoid it. Until one day, they come face to face. The little girl is terrified down to her toes, and she runs away from the dragon. When she gets home after some time, she starts thinking about how she never wants to have that happen again. So she comes up with a plan. She decides that the next time she meets the dragon, things will go differently. Life continues on. She grows up into a young lady, eventually becomes an adult. The dragon's always there, but she never meets it face to face. But it happens one day. This time, when she meets the dragon, she decides to look it in the eye. She stares it down. The dragon's very intimidated by her stare, and so he bows his head and shows her his true self. She does realize that the dragon isn't as big and scary as it once was, and really that it was the hype from the townspeople that made it as scary as it is. She sits down beside the dragon and she pets it and talks to it and learns more about it and comes back day after day to continue learning, and eventually they become friends. And that's where our story is actually going to end. He really wasn't that scary at all. Why do I tell you a story? I tell you a story because stories are interesting. They get you listening. They connect you. You learn from them. Imagine just for a minute that you are the hero in this story. Imagine that you have your own dragon and that you write the dragon into your story every time you come near or close to it, and it becomes a part of who you are. You fear it so much, and it's so strong that it's built into every aspect of your story. We all know that experience or that feeling of fear. What if I tell you that I am the little girl in this story? What if I tell you that my dragon was math? How does math become someone's dragon? Let's go back to the beginning. I have been a teacher for the past 21 years and a pretty good teacher. I love teaching language arts and spending time with books like The Paper Bag Princess by Robert Munsch, which is one of my favorites. I love being able to work within a text, get messy with it, pull it apart, and do all these activities and things that get kids excited and engaged in it. It's not how I felt in math. How does this little girl start off as a good student, continues to be a good student? How does this little girl become the student that avoids math in university, that starts to tell people she's not that good in math, that doesn't know how to teach her students confidently in the math skills that they need? Well, that really has to do with a math injury. My friend calls it a math injury because just like when you get an owie, it leaves behind a scar. I have a scar. Now, I've decided that I was going to be like the paper bag princess or the little girl at the beginning of my story and face that fear. And really looking into my math injury, I realized that my anxiety, my math injury, comes from doing math fast and having to do it in front of people and look stupid. And when those moments happen, my mind shuts down and goes blank. I didn't like this. I didn't like being the math teacher that was okay, but still wasn't effective in what she was teaching kids. So I decided to face my dragon, my math injury, head on. Jo Boaler talks about math anxiety, and lots of research shows that math is actually taught almost the opposite of what I would have done for language arts. It's taught very direct. It's a performance subject. It is about getting the right answer. So we treat this subject differently than we treat any other subject. We also feel that math is something that people are either good at or not good at. It's almost as if there's a math brain. Some people are born with it and some people aren't. Not true. The other thing is that we as teachers learn how to teach the way that we were taught. We teach procedures and calculations, and we focus on the algorithm. My injury comes from not knowing the why, from not having strong enough number sense, or being able to make connections to what I was doing in math. Jo Boaler focuses on just that. She focuses on how kids are increasingly showing math anxieties because of the pedagogy that we use in math classes. So where does that leave us? Well, she says that we need to replace the idea of a learning ability being fixed with the recognition that we're all on a growth journey. Carol Dweck talks about growth mindset and fixed mindset. A fixed mindset would mean that it's just good enough. That's the way it is. That's the way math would be. A growth mindset is, I don't want to have that mindset anymore. I'm going to face that dragon, that challenge, that fear, and I'm going to move past it. So where are you on your journey? Some of us haven't started, and some of us are just beginning. Some of us are in the middle. I want to encourage you to start your own journey. Explore your fear, whether it's a fear in math or a fear of something else that stems back from a long time ago. How do we start our journey? Well, we start this journey by looking at what we know. Maya Angelou talks about when you know better, you do better. It's time to do better. And that's what I've chosen. We need our students to be able to do math differently than how we can do math. We need to unfix our mindset and grow and learn and explore our math knowledge and our fears so that we can do better. We want our students to have skills like being able to persevere and to be risk takers and to be critical thinkers, to collaborate and work together, and to problem solve. All of these pieces are found in the front matter of the math curriculum, but they're ones that we very rarely are able to assess. They're difficult to assess. And when you start looking at your fear and diving into it and becoming a different math teacher than what you were raised with, possibly, you start to learn more. And on my journey of learning, I found that people like Jo Boaler and John Sangiovanni, who wrote this great book called The Productive Math Struggle, talk about how we need to foster perseverance in our kids. And we do this by, number one, facing our own math dragon, and number two, by actually facilitating and guiding kids through that uncomfortableness that we need them to feel in order to show that math can be different. We've taken the fun away. We need to put the fun and the connections back in. Teachers, we need to challenge our students. We need to create moments for them where they can explore and get messy and build their skills so that we can show them that these things are all connected and here's how you can move forward with them. Not task-oriented, but rather problem-oriented. We need to give our students a bigger set of tools for their toolbox. In order to do this, we need to build our own tools. So we need to build a community of learners that work together. Sunil Singh talks about in his book, Math Recess, we need to get kids to learn how to play and love math again so that they can learn that math can be big and beautiful and connected out in the real world in so many ways. We need kids to collaborate together with one another so that they can learn, because learning is social. We need to join brains and get into the thick of it and make sure that students are working through and finding out answers rather than being given answers. We build their toolbox with more than just algorithms, procedures, tricks, and calculations. Peter Liljedahl, in his Thinking Classroom work, talks about students being able to work together in small groups within problems where everybody can start and take those problems to any level of thinking that they can get to. The teacher is the facilitator, the guide, not the direct teacher standing at the front of the room, giving the answers or showing how to do something. Students are working together, they're inquisitive and curious and learning from one another. And with this thinking classroom of being able to stand up and get messy and to work together and write and have erasable moments of learning, students develop connections. The teachers help facilitate the connection so that the learning makes sense and can be transferable between one problem and another. That's good math pedagogy. We need to grow in our pedagogy so that our students can grow in their learning. So, how do we continue to play, love, and learn math? Like I said, I encourage all of you to step outside of your comfort zone, to make good enough, only good enough for a short period of time, to face your dragon, to take a deep breath, and to tame that dragon and make it not as scary as it once was. And when you do this, you will be empowered. Empowered teachers create empowered students. Empowered students no longer have math dragons. You no longer have little girls who start to think that they are no longer good at math, who avoid math. You no longer have adults that are writing their dragon into their story time after time. You need to have the courage to grow, the courage to make connections, the courage to find meaning after making those connections. And when we do that, the purpose of our task, of our learning will show. Thank you.